The little boy couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Standing in the middle of Central Park's crowded pathway, tears streaming down his face as hundreds of people walked past without stopping. His expensive clothes, a tiny designer suit that probably cost more than my rent, marked him as someone from money. But that didn't stop the crowd from ignoring his distress. New York at its finest. See something? Ignore something, keep walking. But I'd never been good at minding my own business. Hey, sweetheart. I knelt beside him, keeping my voice gentle. Are you lost? He looked at me with dark, terrified eyes and said something I didn't understand. Not English. I tried Spanish. I'd learned enough working at the cafe to manage basic conversation, but he just cried harder. Then I heard it. A word that sounded like mama. Italian. The child was speaking Italian. I'd spent a semester abroad in Florence during college, had fallen in love with the language, the art, the culture. I'd continued studying after returning, taking evening classes while working, maintaining my fluency because it connected me to the happiest time of my life. Now that random skill was about to save a terrified child. Non piangere, piccolo, I said softly in Italian. Don't cry, little one. Sono qui per aiutarti. Come ti chiami? I'm here to help. What's your name? His eyes widened with recognition and relief. Luca, mi chiamo Luca. His words tumbled out in rapid Italian. He was looking for his papa. They'd been walking. He'd seen a dog and chased it. And now he couldn't find anyone. Va bene, Luca. Troveremo tuo papà. It's okay, Luca. We'll find your father. I took his small hand. Resta con me, okay? He nodded, gripping my hand like a lifeline, his tears finally slowing. I looked around the crowded park, trying to figure out the best approach. Security? Police? Lost and found? Then I noticed them. 3 large men in dark suits, moving through the crowd with military precision, clearly searching for something. Or someone. Luca, sono questi uomini con tuo papà? Are these men with your father? He looked and nodded vigorously. Sì, Marco. Marco. He started waving his free hand. One of the men spotted us and his entire demeanor changed. Relief washing over his face as he spoke rapidly into a phone or earpiece. The other 2 immediately converging on our location. They surrounded us within seconds, and I instinctively pulled Luca closer, my protective instincts overriding logic. These were clearly security, probably legitimate, but something about their intensity made me nervous. Luca. The first man, Marco apparently, knelt down, his hands gently checking the boy for injuries while speaking rapid Italian. Then his eyes found mine, sharp and assessing. You found him. Thank you. His English was accented but clear. He was lost and scared. I just stayed with him until... Sofia, a voice cut through the crowd like a blade, commanding and cold. Chi è questa donna? Who is this woman? I turned toward the voice and felt my breath catch. The man walking toward us was devastating in a way that went beyond simple handsomeness. Tall, powerfully built, moving through the crowd like it parted for him, which it did. Dark hair swept back from a face of sharp angles and aristocratic features. Olive skin, full lips, and eyes that were almost black, currently fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. He wore a dark suit that probably cost more than my car, with an expensive watch visible at his wrist and an aura of danger that was impossible to ignore. This was someone important, someone powerful, someone you didn't cross, and he was looking at me like I was either a threat or prey. Papa! Luca released my hand and ran to him, and I watched the man's entire demeanor shift. He scooped up his son with surprising gentleness, his face transforming from cold assessment to warm relief. Luca, mi hai spaventato a morte, he murmured, holding the boy close. Luca, you scared me to death. Non scappare mai più, capito? They had a rapid conversation in Italian that I could mostly follow. Luca explaining about the dog, the man gently scolding but clearly just relieved his son was safe. Then the man's eyes found mine again over Luca's head. Lei parla italiano? You speak Italian? Si. I kept my answer simple, suddenly nervous under his scrutiny. Ho studiato a Firenze. I studied in Florence. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, or calculation. He set Luca down, keeping one hand on his son's shoulder, and took a step closer to me. Lei ha trovato mio figlio. Le sono molto grato. You found my son. I'm very grateful. He extended his other hand. Alessandro Russo. I shook it, feeling the strength in his grip, the calluses that suggested his hands did more than sign business documents. Sophia Blake. I'm just glad he's safe. Blake. Non è italiano. Not Italian. His eyes traced my features. Ma parla bene. Dove hai imparato? But you speak well. Where did you learn? Florence, like I said. Study abroad program, then evening classes in New York. I love the language. Why was I nervous? He was just a father grateful I'd helped his lost son. Except he wasn't just anything. The way his security surrounded us, the way people in the crowd gave him space, the expensive everything about him. This was someone significant. Luca, Alessandro said. Switching back to Italian. Say thank you to the kind lady who found you. Grazie. Signora, Luca said solemnly, then surprised me by hugging my legs. Sei stata molto gentile. You were very kind. I smiled, ruffling his dark curls. Prego, piccolo. You're welcome, little one. When I looked up, Alessandro was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Intense, focused, like he was memorizing every detail of my face. Mi scusi, I said, suddenly uncomfortable with his attention. I should get back to work. I'm on my lunch break. Dove lavora? Where do you work? A cafe. Near Columbus Circle. I started to back away. I'm really glad Luca's okay. Arrivederci. Aspetti. Wait. But I was already moving, disappearing into the crowd, my heart racing for reasons I didn't want to examine. Something about Alessandro Russo had set off every warning bell in my head, despite the grateful father act. I made it back to the cafe with 5 minutes to spare, tying on my apron and jumping back into the afternoon rush, but I couldn't shake the feeling of those dark eyes watching me, assessing me, cataloging every detail. You okay, Sophie? My coworker Rachel nudged me. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just a weird lunch break. Helped a lost kid in the park. Aw, that's sweet. Very you. She handed me an order ticket. Table 6 wants a cappuccino with the foam art you do. The fancy leaf thing. I dove back into work, losing myself in the familiar rhythm of espresso machines and customer orders. By the time my shift ended at 6, I'd almost forgotten about the intense man and his adorable son. Almost. I was walking to the subway when I noticed the car. Black SUV, expensive, with tinted windows, parked across the street from the cafe. Probably nothing. New York was full of expensive cars, except it followed me to the subway station. And when I emerged at my stop in Queens, another black SUV was waiting. Paranoia, I told myself. Just coincidence. But when I reached my apartment building and saw a third SUV parked outside, I knew it wasn't coincidence. I pulled out my phone, ready to call 911 when a man stepped out of the vehicle. Not threatening, not approaching, just standing there, waiting. He looked at me, nodded once, then got back in the car, a message. We know where you live. I ran inside, locked my apartment door, and immediately called Rachel. Someone's following me. Black SUVs, they were outside the cafe and now they're at my apartment. Sophie, slow down. Why would anyone follow you? I don't know. Maybe because of that kid I helped? His father seemed intense. What kind of intense? Like celebrity intense or like dangerous intense? Like the kind of person who has security and everyone gives space to? I peeked through my curtain. The SUV was still there. Rachel, what if he's like mob or something? This is New York, not The Godfather. You're probably just freaked out because a rich guy was grateful. But she sounded uncertain. Want me to come over? I can bring wine and we can laugh about your paranoia? Actually, yeah. That would be great. While waiting for Rachel, I did what any modern woman would do. I Googled Alessandro Russo, New York. The results made my blood run cold. Alessandro Russo wasn't just rich. He was the head of one of New York's most powerful crime families. The articles were carefully worded. Alleged ties to organized crime, suspected involvement in racketeering. But the message was clear. I'd helped the son of a mob boss. And now they were watching me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Don't be afraid. The protection is for your safety. AR, how did he have my number? I'd never given it to him. Another text. You have a gift with my son. He hasn't responded to anyone like that since his mother died. I'd like to speak with you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the address below. Please come. An address in Manhattan, probably his office. Or wherever mob bosses conducted business. I should ignore it. Should block the number, file a police report, do anything except respond to a criminal who was clearly having me followed. But then I thought of Luca's tears. His relief when I'd spoken to him in Italian, the way he'd hugged me goodbye. And I thought of Alessandro's expression when he'd looked at his son. Not cold or dangerous, but loving and grateful. This is insane, I muttered, typing a response. I'll come, but only to talk. His reply was immediate. That's all I ask. The car will pick you up at 9:30. I can take the subway? The car will pick you up at 9:30. Non-negotiable. I stared at my phone, realizing I'd just agreed to meet with a mob boss. Rachel was going to kill me, or Alessandro Russo would. Hard to say which was more likely. Rachel arrived with wine and immediately noticed my panic. Okay, spill. What's really going on? I showed her my phone. The texts, the Google results, the Wikipedia page that carefully detailed Alessandro Russo's alleged criminal empire. Holy shit, she breathed. You helped a mob boss's kid. Sophie, this is serious. This is like witness protection level serious, I know, but what was I supposed to do? Let a 5-year-old cry in the middle of Central Park? Yes, that's exactly what normal people do in New York. She poured us both generous glasses of wine. Okay, think. What exactly did you say to him? Just that I found his son. Helped calm him down. We spoke Italian. You spoke Italian with a mob boss. Rachel gulped her wine. Of course you did. Because you can't just help someone like a normal person. You have to showcase rare skills that make you interesting. It's not a rare skill. Lots of people speak Italian. Not in New York, not fluently. Not enough to comfort a terrified kid. She paced my small living room. Okay, so he's intrigued by you. Maybe he just wants to thank you properly. Rich people do that, right? Give reward money or whatever. Rachel, he's having me followed. He got my phone number somehow. He's sending a car tomorrow. I showed her the messages. This isn't normal grateful parent behavior. No, it's mob behavior. Which means you absolutely should not get in that car tomorrow. She grabbed my phone. We're blocking this number. You're calling in sick to work, and you're staying here with all the locks engaged until this blows over. And if it doesn't blow over? If they keep following me, keep whatever they're doing, then we go to the police. And tell them what? That I helped a child and now his father wants to thank me? They'll laugh me out of the station. I took my phone back. Look, maybe I should just go. Hear what he wants. It's a public meeting, 10 a.m. in Manhattan. What's he going to do in broad daylight? Sophie, he's the mob. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. But Rachel's protest sounded weak even to her own ears. Okay, compromise. You go, but I'm tracking your phone. You text me every 30 minutes. And if I don't hear from you by noon, I'm calling everyone. Police, FBI, your mom in Oregon, everyone. Deal. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump, convinced someone was breaking in. The SUV stayed parked outside all night. I checked every hour, and knowing they were there was somehow both terrifying and oddly reassuring. At 9:15 a.m., I dressed carefully. Professional but not too formal. Black pants, a nice blouse, my good jacket. If this was a business meeting, I'd dress for it. If it was something else, well, at least I'd look put together when my body was found. That's not funny, Rachel said when I made the joke. Gallows humor is how I cope. At exactly 9:30, my phone buzzed. The car's downstairs. I hugged Rachel, checked that my phone was fully charged, and headed down. The black SUV was there, rear door open, a driver in a suit waiting beside it. Miss Blake, please, make yourself comfortable. The interior was more luxurious than my entire apartment. Leather seats, climate control, even a mini bar. I sat stiffly, trying not to touch anything, as we pulled into Manhattan traffic. The drive took 40 minutes, ending at a building in Midtown that looked like any other office tower. The driver led me through a private entrance to an elevator that required a key card. We rode to the top floor in silence. The doors opened to what could only be described as a penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, the same park where I'd found Luca yesterday. Expensive art on the walls, furniture that probably cost more than my college tuition, and sitting behind a massive desk, Alessandro Russo. He stood when I entered, buttoning his suit jacket, a dark navy that made his eyes look even darker. "Miss Blake, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" The words came out before I could stop them. A slight smile touched his lips. "You always have a choice. You could have ignored my messages, refused to come, called the police, but you're here. That tells me something. That I'm an idiot who makes poor life choices, that you're brave and curious." He gestured to a sitting area away from the desk, a leather sofa and chairs arranged around a coffee table. "Please sit. Would you like coffee? Tea? Answers? I'd like answers." But I sat, perching on the edge of the sofa. "Why am I here? What do you want?" He poured himself espresso from a silver service, his movements controlled and precise. Luca hasn't spoken to anyone outside the family since his mother died 2 years ago. He's had tutors, nannies, therapists, all carefully vetted, all Italian speakers. And he barely says a word to any of them. "I'm sorry for your loss, but I still don't understand. Yesterday with you, he talked. Actual conversation, not one-word answers. He laughed when you called him Piccolo. He hugged you goodbye." Alessandro set down his cup. "Do you know how long it's been since my son voluntarily hugged someone outside our immediate family?" "Mr. Russo, Alessandro, please. Alessandro." The name felt strange on my tongue. I'm glad I could help Luca feel comfortable. But that doesn't explain why you're having me followed, or why I'm in your office. The surveillance is protection, not intimidation. You help the son of someone important. That makes you valuable to certain people. Good people who might want to reward you, and bad people who might want to use you against me. His expression was serious. "The moment Luca spoke to you in that park, you became a person of interest. I'm making sure the right people find you first. The right people being you. Yes. And what do you want from me?" He leaned back in his chair, studying me with those intense dark eyes. "I want to offer you a job. As Luca's tutor. Language instruction, cultural education, general companionship. You'd work at my home 4 afternoons per week, well compensated. All above board, all legal, all safe." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You want me to work for you? For the mob? I want you to teach my son. The fact that I have certain business interests is irrelevant to your role." He pulled out a contract, sliding it across the table. $25,000 per month. Health insurance included. Completely legitimate employment, all taxes paid, all documentation proper. $25,000 per month. That was more than I made in a year at the cafe. This is insane. I'm not qualified to be a tutor. I have a degree in art history, not education. You speak fluent Italian. You connected with my son in minutes. You have a calm, gentle demeanor that he responds to. Those are the only qualifications I need." He pushed the contract closer. "Read it. Take it to a lawyer if you want. There's nothing nefarious hidden in the fine print. It's a straightforward employment agreement." I stared at the contract, my mind racing. This was dangerous. Getting involved with someone like Alessandro Russo, even in a legitimate capacity, was asking for trouble. But $25,000 per month would pay off my student loans. Would let me quit the cafe, focus on my art, maybe even save for graduate school. Would change my life completely. I need time to think about this. "Of course. Take the contract, review it, make your decision." He stood, and I automatically stood with him. "But Sophia, understand something. Whether you accept this job or not, you're now on my radar. And that means you're under my protection. The surveillance will continue regardless of your employment status, because I won't risk someone using you to get to Luca. So I'm a prisoner either way, just with better pay if I work for you. You're not a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference." He walked me to the elevator. "I'll have Marco drive you home. Take the weekend to consider my offer. If you accept, you can start Monday." In the elevator, I finally let myself breathe. The whole meeting had felt surreal. Sitting in a mob boss's penthouse office, being offered an insane amount of money to tutor his son, being told I was protected, whether I liked it or not. Rachel was waiting at my apartment, practically tackling me when I walked in. Oh, thank God. I was 10 minutes from calling the FBI. What happened? I told her everything, showing her the contract, explaining the offer. Okay, that's actually Not as horrifying as I expected. I mean, it's a real job. A legitimate job. Just with a very illegitimate boss. She read through the contract. Holy shit, Sophie. This is life-changing money. I know. But can I really work for someone like him? Knowing what he is? Knowing what he allegedly is. He's never been convicted of anything. She kept reading. And honestly, teaching a traumatized kid Italian and keeping him company? That's not exactly helping with criminal activity. That's just being a nice person who gets paid really well. You think I should do it? I think you should decide what you can live with. But Sophie, you're working 2 jobs to pay rent in Queens. You're 26 and still paying off student loans. You have an art degree you can't use because galleries don't pay enough for you to survive in this city. She set down the contract. This could change everything for you. The question is, can you handle the moral ambiguity of who signs your paychecks? I spent the weekend researching Alessandro Russo more thoroughly. The articles painted him as a ghost, someone everyone knew ran a criminal empire, but who'd never been successfully prosecuted. Smart, careful, protected by lawyers and family loyalty. But there were also articles about his philanthropy, donations to children's hospitals, funding for Italian cultural programs, support for immigrant communities. Either he was laundering money through charity, or he genuinely cared about certain causes, or both. People were rarely all good or all bad. Monday morning, I called the number Alessandro had given me. I'll take the job, but I have conditions. I'm listening. I teach Luca. Only Luca. I don't get involved in your business. I don't see anything I shouldn't see. I don't know anything I shouldn't know. I'm a tutor, nothing more. Agreed. And if at any point I feel unsafe or compromised, I can quit. No strings, no retaliation, no making my life difficult. There was a pause. That's a harder promise to make. Not because I'd retaliate, but because once you're part of my household, you're under my protection permanently. That doesn't end just because you stop working for me. So I'm stuck with your protection forever? You're stuck with my family's interest in your well-being forever. Is that such a terrible thing? I thought about the SUV that had sat outside my apartment all weekend, about feeling safer knowing someone was watching, about how that protection had let me sleep better than I had in months. When do I start? Today, if you're available. Luca is excited to see you again. He's been asking about La Signora Gentile dal Parco, the kind lady from the park. Despite everything, I smiled. I can be there at 2 p.m. Perfect. Marco will pick you up at 1:30. And Sophia? Thank you. You're giving my son something I thought he'd lost forever. What's that? Joy. You're giving him joy. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment staring at the contract I was about to sign, and wondered if I was making the best decision of my life or the worst. Probably both. But for $25,000 a month and the chance to help a sweet kid named Luca, I was willing to find out. Alessandro's home wasn't what I expected. Instead of some gaudy mansion screaming mob money, it was an elegant townhouse on the Upper East Side, understated wealth, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. Beautiful brownstone facade, flower boxes on the windows, the type of place that cost tens of millions but looked tastefully normal from the outside. Marco walked me to the door, where a woman in her 60s greeted us with a warm smile. Miss Blake? I'm Teresa, the housekeeper. Mr. Russo told me to expect you. Please come in. The interior matched the exterior. Elegant but comfortable, with family photos on the walls instead of just expensive art. I spotted Luca in many of them, and a beautiful dark-haired woman who must have been his mother. That's Gianna, Teresa said softly, noticing my gaze. Mrs. Russo. She died 2 years ago. Cancer. It was very sudden, very aggressive. She went from diagnosis to gone in 4 months. She crossed herself. Mr. Russo has never recovered. And Luca, poor baby, he stopped talking to everyone except family. I'm sorry. I can't imagine how hard that must be. You're the first outsider he's spoken to since. Mr. Russo is very grateful. She led me through the house to a bright sunroom at the back. Luca, your teacher is here. The little boy looked up from the blocks he was playing with, and his face lit up with genuine joy. Sofia, sei tornata! You came back! I knelt beside him, smiling. Certo che sono tornata. Mi hai detto che avresti costruito un castello. Of course I came back. You told me you'd build a castle. Sì, guarda. He showed me his impressive block construction. Definitely castle-like, with towers and everything. We fell into easy conversation in Italian, discussing architecture and dragons and all the important things 5-year-olds care about. I was so focused on Luca that I didn't notice Alessandro standing in the doorway until Teresa cleared her throat. Mr. Russo, I didn't hear you come in. I didn't want to interrupt. They were having such a nice conversation. He moved into the room and Luca immediately reached for him. Papà, Sofia è qui. Stiamo parlando di draghi. Sofia is here. We're talking about dragons. Lo vedo, piccolo. I see, little one. Alessandro's entire demeanor was different around his son. Softer, warmer. The dangerous edge completely gone. Sofia will be here every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday afternoon. Would you like that? Sì. Possiamo parlare italiano e giocare e... Luca launched into an excited monologue about all the things we could do together, and I watched Alessandro's face transform. He looked at his son like he was witnessing a miracle. When Luca finally paused for breath, Alessandro caught my eye. Thank you, he mouthed silently. The afternoon passed quickly. I worked with Luca on his Italian vocabulary, read him stories, helped him with a puzzle. He was bright, sweet, and starved for attention and connection. By the time my session ended at 5, I was exhausted but happy. You're a natural, Teresa said, bringing me tea in Alessandro's study where I was documenting the day's activities for his review. I've never seen Luca so animated. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm just talking to him, treating him like a person, instead of a broken thing that needs fixing. That's more than anyone else has done. She patted my shoulder. Mr. Russo will be pleased. As if summoned, Alessandro appeared, having apparently just arrived home. His suit was slightly rumpled, his tie loosened, and there was a tension around his eyes that suggested his day had been long and stressful. Sophia, how was the first session? I handed him my notes, detailed observations about Luca's language skills, his interests, areas where he needed more support. Alessandro read them carefully, his expression thoughtful. This is excellent. Very thorough. He looked up at me. Would you like to stay for dinner? Luca has been asking, and Teresa always makes too much food. I should get home, please. It would mean a lot to Luca. And to me. His dark eyes held mine. Just dinner. As thanks for today, I should have said no, should have maintained professional boundaries. But the hopeful expression on his face, so different from the cold mob boss I'd met in his office, made me agree. Okay, just dinner. Dinner was surprisingly normal. We ate in the kitchen rather than a formal dining room. Pasta that Teresa had made from scratch, fresh bread, a simple salad. Luca sat between us, chattering away in Italian about his day, occasionally translating for Teresa when she asked what we were discussing. He's never like this, Alessandro said quietly to me while Luca was distracted showing Teresa his castle. So happy, so talkative. You've worked a miracle in one afternoon. It's not a miracle. He just needed someone who speaks his mother's language, who makes him feel connected to her. I watched Luca animatedly describing his block construction. You said she was Italian? From Milan. We met when I was there on business, married within 6 months. She was... He paused, emotion flickering across his face. She was everything good about me. Everything light and warm and kind. When she died, I lost the best part of myself. And Luca lost his whole world. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. It was. And watching him withdraw, stop talking, stop connecting with anyone, that was almost worse. Like I was losing him too. He looked at me directly. Until yesterday in the park when I watched him talk to you like you were the answer to prayers, I didn't know how to pray. The intensity of his gaze made me uncomfortable. I'm just a tutor. I'm not replacing his mother, I know that. And I'm not asking you to. I'm just grateful, more than I can express. He stood, clearly uncomfortable with his own vulnerability. Marco will drive you home. I'll see you Thursday? Thursday, yes. Over the next 2 weeks, I fell into a routine. 4 afternoons per week at the Russo townhouse, working with Luca, occasionally staying for dinner when he begged me to. The job was perfect, engaging, rewarding, and paid so well I'd quit the cafe after the first week. But I was also becoming increasingly aware of Alessandro. The way he'd watch me and Luca together with an expression that was part gratitude, part longing. The way he'd join us for tea sometimes, listening to our Italian conversations with a small smile. The way he'd ask about my life, my art, my dreams with genuine interest. "You're falling for him," Rachel observed over drinks one Friday night. "Don't even try to deny it. You get this look when you talk about him." "I'm not falling for him. He's my boss. And a criminal. An alleged criminal who's really hot and clearly into you." She sipped her martini. "Has he made a move?" "No, of course not. It's completely professional. But you want him to." Did I? I thought about Alessandro's rare smiles, the way his whole face changed when he laughed, how gentle he was with Luca. I thought about the intelligence in his eyes, the way we could discuss Italian art and literature for hours, how he'd ordered books he thought I'd like for the townhouse library. It doesn't matter what I want. Nothing can happen between us. Why not? You're both single adults. He's the mob, Rachel. Even if he's a good father and kind to me, he's still someone who does terrible things. I can't ignore that. Can't you? You're already working for him. She had a point. I'd already compromised my morals by taking his money. What was the difference between working for him and being involved with him? Everything, I told myself. But I was starting to wonder if I believed it. The shift happened on a Tuesday afternoon in my third week. I'd just finished with Luca and was gathering my things when Alessandro appeared. "Sophia, do you have a moment? I'd like to show you something." He led me upstairs to a room I'd never been in. A studio with perfect north-facing light, empty except for an easel and some storage cabinets. This was Gianna's painting studio. I haven't touched it since she died. He opened the cabinets, revealing high-end art supplies, oil paints, brushes, canvases, everything an artist could want. She wanted it to be used. Would you like to paint here? In your free time? Or before sessions with Luca? I know you studied art, and Teresa mentioned you'd given up your own painting because you couldn't afford supplies. I stared at the beautiful space, the expensive materials, the generous offer. "Alessandro, this is too much. It's nothing." These supplies would just sit here unused. Gianna would have wanted another artist to have them. He moved to the window. "I'm not trying to buy your affection or compromise your professionalism. I want you to have something for yourself. You give so much to Luca. Let me give something to you." "Why?" The question came out whisper soft. "Why are you being so kind to me?" He turned, and the expression on his face took my breath away. Vulnerable, open, painfully honest. Because you brought light back into this house. Because watching you with my son makes me remember what happiness feels like. Because when you laugh, I want to find ways to make you laugh again. He took a step closer. Because I'm falling for you, Sophia, and I'm trying very hard to fight it, but I'm losing that battle. My heart hammered against my ribs. You can't. We can't. This is wrong, complicated, probably a terrible idea. He was close enough now that I could feel the heat of him. But that doesn't make it less true. I'm falling for you, and if I'm not mistaken, you feel something too. Even if I did, it doesn't matter. You're my boss. You're a criminal. You can say it. His smile was sad. I know what I am, Sophia. I'm not a good man. I do things that would horrify you if you knew the details. But with you, with Luca in this house, I get to pretend I'm better than I am. That I deserve something good. Alessandro, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel anything. He stepped back, putting distance between us. I just needed you to know. To understand why I can't stop thinking about you. Why every Tuesday and Thursday and Friday I watch the clock until you arrive. Why teaching my son Italian has become the highlight of my week. Not because of Luca's progress, but because it means you're here. I should have left. Should have maintained boundaries, reminded him this was inappropriate. Instead, I said, I think about you too. When I'm not here, I'm counting hours until I come back. Not just for Luca, for you. The admission hung between us, dangerous and electric. Cazzo, Alessandro breathed. Fuck. We shouldn't do this. No, we shouldn't. It would complicate everything. Absolutely. You should leave. Before I do something we'll both regret. I should. But neither of us moved. We stood in Gianna's sunlit studio, surrounded by her abandoned art, and I felt the inevitability of what was about to happen. "Tell me to stop," Alessandro said softly, moving closer again. "Tell me this is wrong and I'll walk away. I'll be professional, respectful, nothing but your employer. But if you don't say anything..." I didn't say anything. He kissed me like he'd been starving for it. Gentle at first, almost reverent, then deeper as I responded. His hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones, and I felt myself melting into him. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "This changes everything," he murmured. "I know. We should talk about boundaries, about what this means. Tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow." I kissed him again, softer this time. "For tonight, can we just be two people who want each other? Not boss and employee, not criminal and civilian, just Alessandro and Sophia?" "Just Alessandro and Sophia," he agreed. I like the sound of that. We didn't talk the next day, or the day after that. Instead, we fell into something that felt like a beautiful secret. Stolen moments between my sessions with Luca, lingering conversations over dinner, the weight of unspoken feelings growing heavier with each passing day. By Thursday, the tension was unbearable. I finished my session with Luca, who'd made incredible progress with his Italian reading comprehension, and found Alessandro waiting in the hallway. "Can we talk? Privately?" His expression was serious, controlled, giving nothing away. He led me to his study, closing the door behind us. The moment it clicked shut, he pulled me into his arms, kissing me with an intensity that made my knees weak. "I've been going insane," he murmured against my lips. "Watching you with Luca, knowing I can't touch you, can't..." He kissed me again. "We need to figure this out. What we're doing, what we are to each other." "I know." I pulled back enough to see his face. "Alessandro, I can't be your secret. I can't sneak around hiding what this is. That's not who I am. I'm not asking you to hide, but we need to be careful. My world is dangerous, and being close to me makes you a target. I need to ensure your safety before we..." He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. "Before we become official." "Official how?" "I want to date you, properly. Take you to dinner, to galleries, to all the places you've mentioned wanting to see. I want people to know you're mine." He caught himself. "That we're together. But first, I need to increase your security, make certain arrangements." "What kind of arrangements?" "The kind that ensure no one uses you to get to me. The kind that make it clear hurting you means war with my family." His expression grew cold, dangerous. "I have enemies, Sophia. Bad people who would love to find a weakness they could exploit. You can't be that weakness unless I can protect you properly. So I need to become part of your world, really part of it." "Yes. And I need to know you understand what that means." He guided me to sit on the leather sofa, settling beside me. "If we do this, if we make this real, there's no going back to your normal life. You'll have security, always. People will know who you are, what you mean to me. You'll be associated with my name, my reputation, my business, your criminal business." "Yes." He didn't try to deny it. "I won't lie to you about what I am or what I do. I run an organization that operates outside the law. We handle protection. We settle disputes. We maintain order in communities the police ignore. Is it legal? No. Is it necessary? I believe it is. But that's for you to decide if you can accept." I thought about the past 3 weeks. The way Alessandro spoke about his work, not with pride, but with a sense of duty. The charitable donations, the community support, the fact that people in his neighborhood seemed to respect rather than fear him. "Tell me about Gianna. How did she handle it?" "Your world?" His expression softened. "She hated it at first. We almost broke up because she couldn't reconcile the man she loved with what I did for a living. But eventually she understood that I wasn't a monster. Just someone trying to do what's right in a system that doesn't always allow for legal solutions. And she made peace with that. She found ways to balance it. She focused on the good, the scholarships we funded, the businesses we protected, the families we helped. She ignored the rest." He took my hand. "I'm not asking you to approve of everything, just to accept that this is part of who I am, and decide if you can live with it. Can I ask you something? Honestly? Anything. Have you ever killed anyone?" He didn't flinch. Yes. In self-defense, in defense of my family, in situations where it was them or me. I'm not proud of it, but I won't lie about it either. I should have been horrified. Should have pulled my hand away, walked out, never looked back. But I thought about the gentle father who read bedtime stories to his son. The man who'd created a scholarship program for Italian-American students, who'd given me access to his late wife's art studio because he wanted me to have something for myself. People were complicated. Good and bad existed in the same person. I need time, I said finally, to think about this, about what being with you really means. But I'm not running. I'm just processing. Take all the time you need. He kissed my forehead. But know this, I'm already in love with you, Sophia. Completely, terrifyingly in love. And if you decide you can't handle my world, I'll understand. But I'll never stop protecting you. Even if you walk away, you're mine to keep safe. That's a very possessive statement. I'm a very possessive man when it comes to people I love. He smiled slightly. One of my many flaws you'll have to decide if you can tolerate. I spent the weekend soul-searching. Rachel came over Saturday night, and I told her everything. The kiss, the conversation, the impossible choice I was facing. Okay, so let me get this straight. A gorgeous, rich Italian mob boss is in love with you, wants to date you properly, is honest about his criminal activities, and you're hesitating because dating a criminal is insane? Is it, though? You've been working for him for 3 weeks. Has anything bad happened? Have you witnessed any crimes? Been asked to do anything illegal? No, but that doesn't mean... Sophie, in those 3 weeks, you've been happier than I've ever seen you. You light up when you talk about Luca. You get all dreamy when you mention Alessandro. You're painting again, for God's sake. You haven't painted since college. She grabbed my hands. I'm not saying ignore the danger, but I am saying maybe the danger is worth it for the happiness. You're a terrible influence. I'm a realistic influence. You're never going to meet a perfect man with a perfect life who makes you feel the way Alessandro does. So the question is, can you accept an imperfect man with a complicated life who makes you deliriously happy? Monday, I arrived at the townhouse with my decision made. Alessandro met me at the door, his expression carefully neutral. Sophia, I want to try. Really try? You and me, officially dating, navigating your world together. I took a breath. But I have conditions. Tell me. First, you're honest with me. Always. About the danger, about your business, about everything. No protecting me from the truth. Agreed. Second, Luca comes first. Always. If being with me impacts him negatively in any way, we stop. His well-being is more important than our relationship. Absolutely. Third, I maintain some independence. I'll accept security if necessary, but I'm not giving up my entire life. I still want to paint, have friends, exist as my own person outside of being your girlfriend. Of course. I don't want to cage you, Sophia. I want to be with you. He pulled me close. Anything else? Yes, you have to teach me about your world. The rules, the players, the dangers. If I'm going to survive being with you, I need to understand what I'm dealing with. That's fair, and I promise to educate you thoroughly. He kissed me softly. So we're doing this? We're together? We're together. His smile was brilliant, transforming his face from dangerously handsome to absolutely devastating. Then we should celebrate, properly. Dinner tonight, somewhere special, just the two of us. What about Luca? Teresa will watch him. She's been practically begging me to go out, to have a life beyond work and fatherhood. He cupped my face. Let me take you on a real date, Sophia. Let me show you off to the world. That night, Alessandro took me to a restaurant I'd only read about. The kind of place that required reservations months in advance and had a Michelin star. But when we arrived, we were immediately escorted to a private room in the back, past all the people waiting. Perks of my name, Alessandro explained. Not all of them are bad. Dinner was incredible. Multiple courses of exquisite Italian cuisine, wine that probably cost more than my old monthly rent, conversation that flowed from art to politics to philosophy. Alessandro was educated, well-read, passionate about culture and history. This is the part people don't see, he said over dessert. They think mob boss and assume I'm uneducated, crude, all violence and no refinement. But my father insisted I study, learn languages, appreciate art, understand the world beyond our neighborhood. Why? If you were just going to run a criminal organization, because he believed we could be more than criminals, that we could be patrons, benefactors, people who contributed to society while also operating outside its rules. He swirled his wine. He died when I was 25. Car accident, actually an accident, not a hit. I inherited everything, including his vision of what we could be. And have you achieved it? His vision? I'm trying. The scholarships, the charitable work, the legitimate businesses we run, that's all in service of his dream. But I'm still my father's son, still running operations he built, still making choices he might not have approved of. He looked at me directly, still very much a criminal, no matter how I try to dress it up. But you're also a father. A philanthropist, a man who reads Dante for pleasure and can discuss Caravaggio's technique. I reached across the table for his hand. You're complicated, Alessandro. That doesn't make you irredeemable. You make me want to be redeemable, to be worthy of how you look at me. He kissed my knuckles. Thank you for giving me a chance, for seeing past the reputation to the man underneath. Thank you for being honest about who you are, for not pretending to be something you're not. We left the restaurant around 11, and I noticed the security immediately. 2 SUVs, one ahead and one behind Alessandro's car. He saw my expression and squeezed my hand. I told you, being with me means protection. You'll get used to it. Will I? Will I ever get used to armed guards following me around? I hope not completely. I hope you always stay a little uncomfortable with this world. That's what keeps you grounded. What keeps me grounded. He pulled me closer in the back seat. But I'll do everything in my power to make you feel safe. When we reached my apartment, he walked me to the door despite my protests. What kind of man lets his girlfriend walk into her building alone at night? He kissed me at my door, slow and deep, and I felt it all the way to my toes. I'll see you Thursday? Tuesday. We have a regular schedule, remember? How could I forget? Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and now hopefully many dinners and weekends in between. He kissed me again. Buonanotte, mia cara. Good night, my dear. I watched him return to his car, the SUVs pulling away in perfect formation, and I realized my life had fundamentally changed. I was dating a mob boss. Actually, officially dating him. Rachel was going to die when I told her. Inside my apartment, I found a gift on my kitchen counter. A set of professional-grade oil paints with a note in Alessandro's handwriting. For the studio. Start painting again. I called him immediately. You broke into my apartment? I had someone deliver supplies. There's a difference. I could hear the smile in his voice. Do you like them? They're perfect. But Alessandro, you can't just what? Give gifts to my girlfriend? Make sure she has what she needs to pursue her passion? He paused. Get used to being spoiled, Sophia. It's one of the few pleasures I have, taking care of people I love. After we hung up, I stood in my tiny kitchen, holding expensive art supplies, and I realized I was smiling like an idiot. This was insane, dangerous, probably a terrible idea, but I'd never been happier. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of contradictions. By day, I was Luca's tutor, watching him blossom as his Italian fluency grew and his confidence returned. By evening, I was Alessandro's girlfriend, learning to navigate a world where armed security was normal, and dinner conversations casually mentioned. Business disputes that I knew meant something far less innocent. Painted in Gianna's studio on the days I wasn't tutoring, and slowly the walls filled with canvases, abstract pieces inspired by the complexity of my new life. All light and shadow, beauty and danger intertwined. These are extraordinary, Alessandro said one afternoon, studying my latest piece. You should show them. Have a gallery exhibition. No one wants to see paintings by a mob boss's girlfriend. Everyone wants to see paintings by a talented artist, which you are. He pulled me into his arms. And being my girlfriend is just one part of who you are. Don't let my world define you completely. But it was hard not to let his world consume me. I learned the names of his key associates. Marco, his head of security. Vincent, his second in command. Paolo, his lawyer who somehow kept everything legal despite the illegal activities funding it all. I learned which restaurants were family-owned, which neighborhoods were under their protection, which politicians took their money and looked the other way. You're learning quickly, Vincent observed one night at a family dinner. Apparently, I was important enough to be included in those now. Most outsiders take years to understand our world. You picked it up in months. She's smart, Alessandro said proudly, his hand resting on my thigh under the table, and she asked good questions instead of pretending to understand. Smart enough to know she should run, Vincent's wife, Maria, said with a knowing smile. But too in love to do it. I remember that feeling. I was in love, hopelessly, completely in love with a man who'd shown me sides of himself that contradicted everything I should have felt. He was ruthless in business but gentle with his son. He was feared on the streets but read poetry in Italian. He was a criminal by any legal definition, but had more honor than many legitimate businessmen I'd known. I love you, I told him one night. Lying in his bed, I'd started staying over several nights a week, Luca having fully accepted my presence in their lives. I know it's complicated and probably insane, but I love you. Probably insane? Definitely insane. He pulled me closer. But I love you too, more than I thought I could love anyone again after Gianna. You brought light back into my life, Sophia. You and Luca are my entire world now. That's a lot of pressure. That's the truth. He kissed my forehead. And I need to tell you something. About why I've been so protective lately. I propped myself up on my elbow. What's wrong? There's been a territorial dispute. Another family moving in on our operations, trying to take advantage of what they perceive as weakness. His expression was grim. They're wrong, but they're also dangerous. And they've been asking questions about you. My blood ran cold. What kind of questions? Who you are, what you mean to me, whether you'd be useful as leverage. He pulled me back down against him. I've increased security on you and Luca. You probably haven't noticed because my men are good at being invisible, but you're being protected 24 hours a day now. Alessandro, maybe I should stay away for a while. If being with me puts Luca at risk. No, absolutely not. First, leaving now would signal weakness, which would make everything worse. Second, you're safest when you're with me, in this house, surrounded by my security. And third, he cupped my face. I can't lose you. I won't lose another person I love. So you stay, we stay vigilant, and we trust that my family is strong enough to handle this threat. How long will this last? Hard to say. Could be resolved in days, could take months. These things have their own timeline. He kissed me softly. But I promise you I'll keep you safe. Both of you. The threat became real 2 weeks later. I was walking to the townhouse from the subway. I'd insisted on maintaining some normalcy, despite Alessandro's protests, when a car pulled up beside me. Not one of our security SUVs, something else. Sophia Blake. A man leaned out the window, his smile not reaching his cold eyes. Can I help you? I kept walking, my hand moving to the phone in my pocket, ready to hit the emergency button Alessandro had programmed. Just wanted to say hello. Let you know we've been watching. You're very pretty, very vulnerable. Before I could respond, 2 of Alessandro's men materialized from nowhere, positioning themselves between me and the car. The man's smile faded and the car sped away. Miss Blake, are you all right? Marco was suddenly there, his hand on my elbow, guiding me quickly toward one of our SUVs that had appeared. What just happened? A message. They were testing our response time, making sure you knew they were watching. He helped me into the vehicle. Boss is going to be furious we let them get that close. Alessandro was indeed furious. I'd never seen him so angry, pacing his study, speaking rapid Italian into his phone, his voice ice cold with rage. When he finally hung up, he pulled me into his arms so tightly I could barely breathe. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They should never have gotten close to you. Alessandro, I'm fine. Your men were there in seconds too late. They spoke to you, threatened you, made you feel unsafe. He pulled back to look at me, and I saw fear beneath the anger. This is my fault. I should have insisted you take the car this morning, should have what? Locked me in this house? I'm not a prisoner, Alessandro. I'm your girlfriend. I can't live in fear. You should be afraid. These men are dangerous, and I trust you to keep me safe. Which you did. Your security worked exactly as it should. I cupped his face. Don't let them win by making me give up my independence. That's exactly what they want. He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. You're right. But I'm increasing security anyway, and you're moving in here, temporarily, until this is resolved. Alessandro, non-negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. I can't protect you properly if you're across the city, and I can't sleep knowing you're vulnerable. Please, Sophia, do this for me, for my sanity. I moved in that weekend, bringing clothes and art supplies, setting up in the guest room despite Alessandro's protests that I should share his. Luca doesn't need to know we're sleeping together, I insisted. He's 5. He doesn't need that confusion. Luca adores you. He'd be thrilled if you were here permanently. Permanently is a big word, is it? He backed me against the guest room wall, his body pressed against mine. Because I'm thinking very permanently about you, Mia Cara. Thinking about forever. Alessandro, we've only been together 3 months. I knew after 3 days. The rest has just been confirming what my heart already knew. He kissed me deeply. But I'll be patient. I'll wait until you're ready for that conversation. Living in the townhouse was easier than I expected. Luca was thrilled to have me there constantly. Teresa welcomed my help in the kitchen, and even the security team became familiar, friendly faces. I painted in Gianna's studio, tutored Luca, had dinner with Alessandro every night like we were a normal family, except we weren't normal. The threat hung over us constantly, increased security, restricted movements. Alessandro coming home late from meetings that I knew involved violence I didn't want details about. One night, he came home with bruised knuckles and blood on his shirt. Not his own, he assured me, but that didn't make it better. I cleaned his hands in our bathroom, neither of us speaking, both of us acknowledging what his world really meant. I'm sorry you have to see this side of me, he said quietly. I'm not. Better to see all of you than just the parts you think I can handle. I bandaged his knuckles carefully. Did you kill anyone tonight? No, but I hurt someone badly. Someone who needed to understand that threatening you was a mistake. His dark eyes met mine. I'm not proud of the violence, Sophia, but I won't apologize for protecting what's mine. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm just acknowledging the reality of loving you, which includes accepting that you do terrible things for what you believe are good reasons. Can you live with that? Really live with it long term? I thought about the past 3 months. The happiness I'd found with him and Luca. The art I'd created. The life I'd built. The love that had grown despite the danger and moral complexity. Yes, I can live with it. Because the man who comes home to me, who reads bedtime stories and discusses Dante, that man is worth the complicated parts. He pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was something precious. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. The territorial dispute resolved violently 2 weeks later. I didn't get details. Alessandro deliberately kept me from knowing specifics, but I understood from his exhaustion and relief that the threat was eliminated. The other family had backed down or been forced out. Either way, we were safe again. It's over, he told me, coming home at dawn after being gone all night. Completely over. You can move back to your apartment if you want. Return to your normal life. I looked around the townhouse that had become home. Luca's toys scattered in the living room. My paintings drying in Gianna's studio. Alessandro standing exhausted in the doorway, waiting for my answer. What if I don't want to move back? What if I want to stay here with you and Luca? His expression transformed from exhausted to hopeful. You want to move in? Permanently? I'm already here. My stuff is here. Luca expects me at breakfast. Teresa has started asking my opinion on dinner menus. I moved to him, wrapping my arms around his neck. I want to stay, Alessandro. Not because of threats or protection, because this feels like home. He kissed me deeply, then pulled back with tears in his eyes. The first time I'd ever seen him cry. Mi sposo con te. I'm marrying you. What? That wasn't a proposal. That was a statement of fact. He smiled through his tears. I'm going to marry you, Sophia Blake. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but someday. When you're ready, I'm going to make you my wife. That's very presumptuous. That's very certain. You're mine. You've been mine since the moment you spoke Italian to my son in Central Park. I'm just waiting for you to realize it. 6 months later, he proposed properly, in Gianna's studio, surrounded by my paintings. with Luca hiding behind the door holding a ring box. Sophia. Alessandro knelt, and I felt my breath catch. You brought light back into our darkness. You gave Luca his voice and me my heart. You've accepted my world, loved me despite my flaws, and made this house a home again. Will you marry me? Luca rushed out, holding the box. Sposaci, Sophia. Per favore! Marry us, Sophia, please. I looked at the two of them, the dangerous mob boss and the sweet 5-year-old, the family I'd never expected to find, and I knew my answer. Yes, I'll marry you. Both of you. Alessandro slipped the ring on my finger while Luca cheered, and I realized my life had gone from ordinary to extraordinary the moment I'd chosen to help a lost child who spoke Italian. Ti amo, Alessandro whispered. Ti amo anch'io, I responded. I love you too. We married 3 months later in a small ceremony, family only, which in Alessandro's world meant about 100 people. I wore a simple white dress, carried flowers from the townhouse garden, and spoke my vows in Italian that made Luca cry happy tears. You've given me everything, Alessandro said during his vows. Love, family, hope for the future. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you for all my days. Sei la mia vita. You are my life. Our wedding night. He made love to me like I was something sacred, and I felt the weight of what we'd built together. A life balanced between his dark world and our bright love. Complicated and beautiful and uniquely ours. A year after our wedding, I stood in Gianna's studio, my studio now, looking at the invitation for my first gallery exhibition. 20 paintings exploring the intersection of danger and beauty, darkness and light, the complicated nature of loving someone impossible. They're going to love it, Alessandro said from the doorway, Luca on his hip. They're going to ask questions about my inspiration, about my life. And you'll answer honestly that you found love in unexpected places, that sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the right one. He kissed me softly, that you spoke Italian to a lost child and ended up finding a family. Best decision I ever made. Second best, he corrected. The best was saying yes when I proposed. I laughed, pulling both of them close, and I knew he was right. Speaking Italian